Hey, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is the show all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in the current climate, how to maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a farmer or food producer selling at farmers markets, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're speaking with some of the members of our Farmers Market Pros community about how your tribe of market industry people can provide support online and off, especially in unusual times like these. Hey everyone, I'm Bridget Myers and one of your hosts here on Tent Talk, and I've spent many years as an on and off-site farmers market manager and do it all from telling people to wear their masks to telling people not to drink their drink inside the market. I'm also the educational coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Catfield Slate, Director of San Diego Markets, supervising all that fencing going up around our markets right now. Still an active market manager every week, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I'm co-host Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer, face mask seamstress, and on-site helper outer for San Diego Markets.
Our business cards are getting wildly long.
Things have changed. I thought our jobs were weird before. Our duties have definitely expanded.
Our new slogan is, our jobs are weirder.
That's right.
Keep getting weirder.
We're going to have that group tattoo altered.
That's right.
Our jobs are weirder.
Kind of like that keep Austin weird. It's like keep farmers market jobs weird.
Yeah. Weirder. Keep farmers market jobs weirder.
Even weirder. Yikes. All right, everyone, welcome back to Tent Talk. Farmers market managers and vendors are dealing with even more than the usual regulations, physical labor, and day-to-day jobs right now. We're navigating how to manage COVID-19 protocols, how to deal with emotional reactions while asking shoppers to observe safety requirements, and how, on a personal and messaging level, to respond to the need for racial equality in a world at farmers markets specifically.
And sometimes it feels like we are a little over our heads.
You think? Yes. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. One of the resources, though, that's been invaluable for me, and I think for many of us right now, is having our tribe around to share perspectives and experiences. Sometimes I'll be having an issue I'm trying to figure out, and I can go into one of our groups and hear what other people have done about that, whether by asking the question or just kind of listening for a while. So, whether it's state associations or the national coalition, informal industry groups around our area. And I know that we've had a lot of action in our, with other market managers and vendors and farmers in our Farmers Market Pros community, which is our private Facebook group. And those have gotten me through some really hard times the last few months. So, and I'm getting the sense and watching other conversations, and I can see that that's happening too, whether they're talking to us or whether I'm off busy for a few days and I come back and there's been some whole breakdown in the community and everybody's jumped in to help. So it's been great.
So nice.
Yep. So today on Tent Talk, we have invited a few of our members of that group of the Farmers Market Pros community on Facebook. And they are joining us here on the podcast to share how this group and others that they participate in are helping them navigate recent events and also on an ongoing basis. So we are really excited to introduce some of our friends, our Facebook friends.
Our Facebook friends are here. So just want to welcome, we have 3 guests today. Casey Hare, who we've had on the podcast before. She came to the conference this year too, really active in our Farmers Market Pros community, and she's from the Tennessee Association of Farmers Markets. Caleb Thomas Smith from the Richmond Farmers Market as well, here with lots of great information about how these groups are so helpful. And Lisa Dearden from RV Agriculture, which is a nonprofit that runs 6 markets and an online marketplace and commissary in Central Virginia.
So Caleb, Richmond Farmers Market is in Indiana, is that right?
Yeah, we're the Richmond, Indiana Farmers Market.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. I know the's some other Richmonds.
We're
close we get it all Richmond. The time.
Yeah. I'm saying, wait, do we have 2 Virginia people? No, wait a minute. So just briefly, kind of which groups are y'all finding that you're participating most in? Casey?
Yeah, so the Tennessee Association of Farmers Markets has been a huge resource on top of obviously the Farmers Market Pro community. We have worked directly with the Tennessee Department of Ag as well to get information out to all farmers markets. So not just our members, but we're putting out resources right now to all Tennessee state farmers markets.
That's good. I think actually we've seen that with a lot of associations now, where they used to do a lot of educational things and a lot of communication just with their members. With so many sort of emergency level kind of things to deal with, we're seeing a lot of associations now that are just making those resources available to everybody. They don't worry about whether you've paid a membership fee this year as much as, although you should. Please support all those folks. But they're not worrying too much about that. I know Washington State Farmers Market Association does really detailed webinars on certain topics, and they've made those available to market managers all over the country, which has been cool. And Lisa, what groups do you spend most of your time with?
Well, I was a founding member of the Virginia Farmers Market Association 8 or 9 years ago now. Still involved, and that group has been integral in navigating and pivoting through COVID, acting as the filtering kind of organization to get all the information out from the Department of Agriculture through to our members and other farmers markets. We're kind of doing the same way. We hope people will pay. They just can't right now. I found BAFMA to be extremely helpful. We have our own Facebook group for all members and people who want to know any information about VAFMA. So it's open to the public, but we also have a private Facebook group just for market managers, which really has been the one that's been the most helpful.
Yeah, I think managers are dealing with kind of the most changes in regulations and requirements and protocols, and we have to deal with reporting to regulatory agencies and all that.
What's really crazy is, like, we all know every farmer's market is different. Well, during COVID, although we all have the same guidelines, we're all interpreting them just a little bit differently and enforcing or asking, guiding our customers and vendors through these times in a little different way. So that's been interesting.
Yeah, it's a wide variation from state to state, and even within states, city to city, county to county. In our area, I mean, we're a big spread out metropolis, and we have big differences between us and a farmer's market 10 miles down the road because they're technically in a different city or county. So.
Yeah, our organization is in 4 different counties plus the city of Richmond, and they're all different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have an online group where we all use the same software. And so that online group, we have happy hours every other.
Ah, nice. Like a market management platform, or?
It's a online food hub platform.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so all of the hub administrators that use the software have been meeting periodically on Zoom too, and I found that to be very helpful as well.
Nice. Caleb, which groups are you participating in and getting most input and such from?
Yeah. It's been a mix. Indiana doesn't really have a super strong central farmers market association right now, unfortunately. But our state Department of Agriculture really stepped up, which was neat. They have a program called Indiana Grown, which is all about promoting Indiana-made products, and they really stepped up along with our Purdue Extension county offices and kind of came up with a lot of that initial guidance. We were lucky that our initial kind of shutdown order did include farmers markets as essential services. So, that was a really great win for all of us. But then there was a lot of need for guidance on how do we actually implement this now.
Right.
And so they kind of stepped up and filled that gap along with working with kind of the partners at the State Department of Health. But for me personally, I've gotten a lot of kind of ideas and guidance and support from the Farmers Market Coalition listserv, along with the Farmers Market Pro Facebook group. Both of those kind of online communities have been really great for me because I can kind of just keep my eye on things. And I'm not a huge active participant. I guess I lurk, but I like to just I read everything that's been coming through right now, which I normally wouldn't do, but because there's just so much. But being able to just kind of keep, tabs on what other people are doing, what's working well, what's not, has really helped me to kind of develop what we did. And it's also it was interesting. There's a lot of smaller farmers markets around our area that we kind of have an informal, we all have each other's cell phone numbers. And we all kind of kept texting back and forth. And there was a couple of weeks where our market was closed. And so I actually took that opportunity to go visit those other markets and kind of get to see some stuff on the ground and kind of get a better picture of things and be able to report back to our organization. So those informal networks have also been really, really powerful, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Casey, is your association doing anything formal in terms of keeping your vendors together and keeping them connected?
As far as just market managers, we have a every couple of months we have a meeting, but before really market season got started for Tennessee, which is May, we did regional networking Zoom meetings. So everyone in a certain region to kind of spread everyone out so it wasn't overwhelming, which we had a really great response to. And it was one of those things that as an organization we put together, but you didn't have to be a member to participate. So that way you could still get on and have that face-to-face interaction and join in on those conversations for a little bit of time to learn what, markets that have already started are implementing and what you can implement at your market that's about to start. It was really great.
That's good. I know the Farmers Market Coalition listserv, Caleb, that Juden mentioned, that's been around forever. I mean, a really, really long time.
Yeah.
Gone through periods when it's pretty quiet and there's not much happening on there. And then, of course, this year it's been very active. There are, I get a daily digest and it's really long now. It used to be, I could go several days and not see a post there. So I think more people are involved there. But it's funny, you get an interesting balance when you're in a group that's national versus being in a group that's really local and that's dealing with the specific guidelines that people have given you. You said, Caleb, that Indiana considered markets essential from the start. Did that hold across everywhere in Indiana? Because the state of California said we were essential, but then we had very different guidelines that came down from specific counties and cities.
Yeah, there was a pretty coordinated response. Most of the times the county health departments were pretty much working directly with what the State Department of Health had said. So there was definitely a good amount of, confusion around exactly what being essential meant and what that allowed you to do and didn't allow you to do. But what we found was that the kind of, how do I say this? There was a lot of people who wanted to take a little bit of a wait and see approach. And there was a lot of, we'll see what they do before we do anything. Sure. And so I had to kind of push our organization a little bit to say, hey, we need to just make some steps. Let's take some cues from some other places. And it was amazing. I mean, we would make a, policy decision, and then within a week or two, all the markets in the counties surrounding us would have made really similar policy decisions, or at least decisions on those types of policies, even if it wasn't the same outcome. So that's kind of how things went down for us.
Caleb, are you a manager at a market?
Yeah, so I'm the manager for the Richmond, Indiana Farmers Market. It's just, we're not part of a larger association. I'm actually a city parks employee.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But we kind of work pretty closely with our local county health department and some other organizations as well to kind of pull everything off, along with our local extension office as well.
Right. And Lisa, you're with RV Agriculture, and I know you run 6 markets. Is RV Agriculture?
It's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit. Okay, interesting. All right. And you're, so are you on site at markets? Are you directing a variety of people?
Well, we just actually opened our flagship market last Saturday.
Okay.
And 2 other markets this week.
Great. And will all 6 of yours open, or some of you staying quiet right now?
We run Virginia's only state-sponsored market. It's part of a state employee wellness initiative. So it's in the state capitol, and everybody in state capitol is telecommuting. So the market is not opening this season. It's just that they were thinking of opening it in August and September, which might be a challenge.
Yeah, that's
I've learned to just say, we'll just take that when it, and we'll pivot and we'll figure it out. Yeah. And one of the markets was a brand new market opening in a very rural area where there's not very much internet access, and it's been a real struggle to get vendors because of COVID. And so I just made the decision this week actually to stop stop trying to beat myself up about not being able to open. And we'll just work on maybe a couple smaller type festivals for that area for this fall, if we can do that. And we'll focus on next year. But our online marketplace does drive-through pickups at each of the 6 market sites.
Oh, so all 6.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I know, Casey, you guys were doing a drive-through. Are you still doing that, or have you morphed over entirely to on-site shopping?
We have gone entirely to on-site shopping.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We never did do drive-through. Caleb, are you doing any drive-through stuff?
We didn't do any drive-through stuff. We implemented an online delivery and pickup market early on because we ended up being closed for several weeks. And we're still continuing that online pickup market with delivery options built in. We had a lot of usage of it while we were closed, but then as soon as we opened up for in-person shopping, I mean, I've heard this from a lot of folks that the use of the online market just tanked, which has been good and bad because it means that shoppers are coming back in person, but it's also been hard because I've been trying to keep that vendors updating their profiles and getting things current. And the platform we're using has been making a lot of improvements in response to everything. But, people have already kind of almost moved on from it a little bit in Indiana, which is unfortunate. But we're going to keep running it through the end of the summer just to give it its fair shot and see if we can kind of get the critical mass back up and running with it and see if it's something we want to maintain long term.
I think those online alternatives and drive-throughs and things, that was a place where the groups really came in handy because,
yes.
I mean, when we were closed down, nobody knew what the heck to do. And I saw a lot of conversation and a lot of people helping each other figure out. So if I want to do a drive-through, how would that work? If I'm going to do online ordering, who uses what platform and what do you think about that? And we saw a lot of action on that in our group, at least.
In the Virginia Farmers Market Manager group, it was integral. And what was cool too is that some of the market managers that were open, or they might have gotten information from other state agencies or your group, and posted pictures of like signage and different things. And we were able to, not reinvent the wheel. We're all working flat out with so many different hats, not having to reinvent a COVID sign that somebody else has already figured out. Super beneficial.
Yeah, exactly.
And also a way to share resources as well. I mean, if somebody already paid a designer to make something and they're happy to share it, it's like when everybody's operating on tiny budgets and they've had to scale back employees, it's great if somebody already made something and they were able to pay for it out of their budget. And if it's okay for somebody else to share it, then that kind of takes the burden off other markets that may be strapped right now.
Yeah, that's been really beneficial.
Yeah, that's something that I've seen even before the COVID pandemic really hit that I've always loved about farmers markets is that we have this kind of more cooperative mindset. And I'm trying to tell this to my vendors all the time. It's like, our opponents aren't other farmers. Our competitors aren't people, who are trying to get another market started or, people who are trying to, go the direct CSA route instead of farmers markets. It's, big box stores, it's supermarkets and things like that we're fighting for that market share. And so we only benefit by working together with all those folks and trying to figure out how to make it happen for all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, we love that attitude. That actually was going to be one of my questions is a lot of people seem to be involved in online groups or association listservs or what have you right now. How much were you involved in that kind of thing before this year went completely off the rails? Back in what was more easily defined as normal, how much were you involved with your local association or with online groups of our tribe or that kind of thing? Casey, how long have you been with the Tennessee Association?
So I've been a Middle Tennessee representative for at least 4 or 5 years. And then this year I'm the president in charge of it. So it's been like Lisa said, it's been an integral part of growing the farmers markets that we have. When my husband and I were looking at how to start a farmers market in our community, we visited several other counties' farmers markets and talked to those managers and talked to vendors and really tried to find what worked. But then that's how we got connected into the association. And then attending those meetings and making those connections with other farmers market managers has been, and like Caleb said, we all have each other's cell phone numbers. We text when we have issues. We text when we have vendors that we need to check in on at other markets. We have, and that's been a real benefit to us. Some of us, we share a lot of vendors. And so if the Knoxville Farmers Market Manager has already done a farm visit on a vendor that wants to come to my market, I can ask her, like, hey, you've been to this farm, you've seen this. Obviously, they're at your market, so all is well, right? And she'll give me the green flag to have him at my market. And so it's just having that community and that tribe to relay information and to work together with has been a huge success. And I wouldn't want to be a part of any other community.
Yeah, it's a good family. I know some of it's just emotional support. I know a lot of us, when we had markets closed or had to institute new procedures like wearing masks or what have you, and a lot of times you put that I remember going on Facebook to just let people know that we were reopening our market after being closed for a couple of weeks, and it was still very early in the whole COVID thing. And I'm sure all of you know, either from personal experience or by watching other folks, you post stuff on Facebook and a lot of people come out, not always even market shoppers, just a lot of people that want to express their opinion. And some of them are downright nasty and hateful. And one night I was at like midnight still answering responses from a couple of people in particular who were being really, really hostile. And my messages popped up and it was somebody from our group that was another market manager clear across the country. And she said, I'm watching this and it's awful. And I just want you to know, we've got your back. It's okay. Hang in there. It made me cry at the time.
That means a lot.
Thinking about it now, but yeah, it was huge to know that somebody else completely got it. And she said, remember, you're doing the good work and your farmers are counting on you and good on you standing up. And, it gave me a lot of energy to kind of plunge back into dealing with the folks that were not so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt definitely that. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm definitely a lurker in the Farmers Market Pros community too. And prior to COVID, I worked as a vendor, and now I'm helping Kat and Bridget with their expanded employee team to monitor all the entrances and exits. But I've just been blown away now that I know what it's like kind of on the front lines of working as a market manager during this time of just seeing everybody else's stories on the Farmers Market Pros community and just being like, wow, after a really long day on a Saturday, you're kind of like, I'm so glad I have the whole week to recover before I go back next week, and looking at all of the stories.
Unless you have multiple markets.
Yeah, we're lucky in that way. Anyway, it is so nice to kind of commiserate and, complain to people that know what you're talking about.
or get together and congratulate each other on a day that went well. Like, oh, guess what? Yeah. Only one person yelled at us today. Only one all day long. And everybody in the group says, oh, high five. Cool. I had a day like that a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Or celebrate for sure.
Yeah. It has been very gratifying for me to finally open up a couple of markets and get out there and actually, we had the drive-through markets too. So we saw customers, but everybody's been super, super kind for the most part, and very gracious and appreciative of what we're doing. And I also run a commissary kitchen. So there are a lot of food businesses that rent by the hour to produce food products. And we've been busier than ever. And really, we've never been, in 6 years, we've never been this busy. And it's really gratifying to see people really supporting the local food system. And it's really opened up the holes in our local food system. So I also see certain groups coming together to address the gaping holes and trying to systemically wrap their brains around trying to patch for now, but really thinking about future, how to really systemically change some of the system that we have for our local food supply chains. That's been really super interesting. There's been a couple of small groups that have just started to mushroom now some state delegates who are addressing some of our systemic issues that we're having in Virginia. So that's been really interesting to me and gratifying.
Yeah, it's funny what comes up in sort of a crisis situation. We've seen a lot of the same, I mean, we call them silver linings, that so many more people now, when they started looking at empty grocery store shelves, realize that, hey, local producers are really important. If, trucking gets dicey or big meat factories close or what have you, maybe we better get to know our farmers. Maybe we better know what's a local option for food.
Boy, especially the meat has just been flying off the shelf.
Oh, yeah.
And they're having such a hard time getting, they're having a hard time getting a date to get in there and get anything processed.
Right.
So it's a little bit scary.
Yeah. Caleb, you're saying you have a meat vendor, like a rancher who's out?
Yeah. I mean, he's, normally was, 2 to 3 months of supply at any one time. And he had to add extra processing dates and, he's missing tomorrow's market because he just doesn't have anything. And I said, well, I'm happy for you, but it's going to be an issue. And we had a vendor who had been operating a CSA, I think, for about 20 years. And they never had in the past, 10 years, they'd never had more than 10 people, 15 people join their CSA. And so they came and sold at the market. And then when everything hit, they sold 43 shares. And then they pulled out of the market. And it was another one of those, like, I'm happy for you. It's really great to see, but it's gonna hurt for us, but I can't be mad, because that's exactly what we've wanted. So it's been really interesting to see how this has shifted people's buying perceptions and, also built those relationships up in a new way. I was thinking about how I never talked more than once or twice with a lot of the other farmers market managers nearby to me. And now we've all become closer than ever. So,
yeah, it's funny. I've been managing markets for, it's my 15th year. And in the capital area here in near Richmond, the markets used to be extremely competitive and nobody would talk to each other. Everybody really afraid, you're going to come steal my vendors or, steal something, whatever. And so the capital area started its own kind of informal group, virtual group, really. We did meet in person every month for about 3 years and became a lot closer and started sharing a lot of resources. And that really changed the dynamic in our area. We even collaborated on some projects in an advertising grant together.
Oh, good.
Before that, I just can't even imagine now during this time, if those roots weren't down there and we didn't have these relationships, how we would all be, we would all be mental.
Yeah, right.
Well, I was just thinking about that, like how these established groups have been so helpful during these times. And I'm so glad we started the Farmers Market Pros community group kind of before all this craziness hit the fan, because then it was already there and we already knew so many people from the conferences and from just podcast listeners that were constantly messaging us in our email list and other Farmers Market Association groups. It's so nice that they were already kind of set up before this, because it's been such an invaluable resource, I think, for people that are on the ground. And I think we have to remember that it seems like we kind of got through the hardships of COVID. It might feel that way to everyone, like the public out there, but really as a market manager, I'm looking at cases kind of going up, and I'm looking at restaurants that have opened that are starting to close down again. And I'm trying to stay real positive, but I know that I'm going to really need to rely on other people in the various groups that I'm a part of to get input on what to do next and what to do when things maybe suddenly change again, or how to just kind of navigate this over the next few months. So I'm really grateful for these groups for sure.
Yeah, it's been kind of interesting. I'm missing my first market in a long time tomorrow because I had an exposure to a positive case earlier this week. And so I have a coworker who's going to fill in for me during the actual market. And I'm considering going because I'm a little nitpicky sometimes, never. But I'm thinking about going and sitting in my car with a walkie-talkie and just being like, no, that person can't go there.
That's what Kat would do. She'd have binoculars and she'd be texting us.
I'm in exactly the same boat. My market manager for our flagship market, she has had a little trouble breathing and had to go to get a COVID test. And she says, well, if you really need me, I'll just come and stay really far away. And I'm like,
No.
no.
Please don't.
I mean,
Please don't.
I can't even imagine an organization that runs a market having a positive COVID case.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a big talk about that in another
I mean,
group
it would
that I
just
participate
be
in. It's just
such a PR disaster that I don't know that we could recover from. And that scares
Yeah.
That really scares me.
Yeah, I think so too. So those are some of kind of the hard topics that we're going to want to talk to our groups about, right? So are there any other kind of difficult topics you've been able to get input on from your associations or groups just during this time, or really even in general? I mean, I know we've talked about like pets at the market and angry customers and things like that before.
Such a touchy subject.
I know, so touchy, but something that really only market managers can understand why that's so touchy and why it has to be navigated in a certain way. So are there other things that have been difficult for you guys just to share for our listeners?
What our best practices guidelines coming out of the Department of Agriculture are to allow children over 16. And while it's allowed to have other children, the best practices say no.
Oh, at the market. Okay.
So there is a lot of interpretation there, and some managers are taking it more seriously than others. So, I mean, I think what you were just talking about with COVID positive cases, or somebody's been exposed to COVID. I mean, it might be beneficial to have some kind of a PR kit that's already developed that if it does happen, we could tap into that very quickly.
And actually, Farmers Market Coalition is working on that right now because a market manager, I want to say it's Robbie up in Alaska, had a farmer with a positive case and was trying to decide how to deal with it. And we were all saying, wow, you do have to deal with it though, because you don't want that to come at you from a news source or something. And we were laughing because we said, I'm sure at your market, it's not like our market. Nobody talks to each other, right? So it's not like anybody knows but him. It's like, nope. No. Obviously at markets, if one farmer or vendor or staff member knows something, it takes about 3 minutes for everybody in the market to know it. So
sometimes except for the market manager.
Also that. Justine knows that as a vendor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so we talked about that and having, that it's not good to be on the defensive and trying to figure that out once it happens. Let's plan it. So Farmers Market Coalition actually is working on something like that, and they may have a draft out now if anybody's interested and hasn't been getting it.
Well, I'm glad somebody's working on it because I don't have time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we don't have time, but we need to do it. So that's why sharing these resources are so important, because we're so extra busy now. We always were, and now it's all these regulations that we have to navigate. And so we don't have time to do all that planning for the next step thing, which we really should be doing. Those are the lessons that we should be learning right now, is that we should be planning for crazy things to happen, apparently. So it's nice when bigger groups kind of put that stuff together for us.
Anything in particular that you've gotten help with, Casey?
What to do when you have a case was something that was on our list to talk about through our association. Is should we, as an association, put together something for other markets to utilize, or maybe some bullet points of things to think about and to consider when you do have something like that? Because it seems like, when it first started, everything was so far away, but I feel like that circle is closing in. And so now you're finding, this friend of mine had a friend or whatever who's tested. So it just feels like it's closing in on everybody. I know the vendors too are always looking at the market managers to kind of, what is the next step? When are we not going to have masks? When is anything going to change? And I have to tell them, like, we know as much as you know. I mean, we're all living in limbo. It all sucks. So let's just all love the suck together, right?
Yeah, and you might know like 30 seconds before they know, but
right. I think we're all going to have to live the suck together. Might have to be ready for this.
We're going to get shirts made with that.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe t-shirts or patches or something.
I think one thing that I've really noticed is that I super appreciate during COVID. I've been such a strong proponent of having a strong state association. We haven't really been able to get a lot of financial support for it. But during COVID, man, if there were not that one point person, the executive director for our statewide association, I'm not really sure how the Department of Agriculture would have handled things. Mm-hmm. They would have had, thousands of farmers and customers and market managers just calling. They would have probably, I don't know what would have happened. Yeah. But they just dealt with this one person, and that person was able to filter out all their information. So I'm hoping I'm sure that we're not the only state that had that happen. I'm hoping that we can get some kind of legislation for funding for these associations. I don't know. I can't be the only one that's seeing how important they are right now.
Really important and really hard to fund right now, because even the folks that have always been supportive of associations and groups and things, the finances of farmers markets right now are so scary. And that's something that's coming up a lot in our groups right now. I mean, I think everybody went, how do we stay open? How do we keep going? Let's make sure we're out there, we're essential. And now that it's becoming more and more obvious that things are not going to go back to the old normal real soon, I think everybody's trying to figure out, how do we make this work financially? Because the operations, covering costs of operations for markets is so rough right now. The farmers and vendors actually seem to be are doing fine. At least
they're doing fine.
Area. Yeah, the farmers are selling more than ever, and the vendors are doing well. But the market operations themselves are having a really hard time financially. And I'm seeing a lot of that information coming up in the groups that I'm in, and some people with really good ideas, which is good. So it's been helpful to pass it around. But that's something we're all going to need to keep talking about in our groups.
Yeah. One of the other silver linings of all of this is that we found funding in different businesses that don't typically partner with farmers markets because of the cancellations and trade shows. So we have gutter protection companies coming out to farmers markets because they have that money to spend and they're willing to pay to be there at a farmers market. So we charge, $150, $250 per date to come out to the market and have access to the customers that are there. And that's been a really great alternative funding source for us. Whereas, when we were partnering with chiropractors and pediatricians, their patients are kind of still there, but they've had to cut back a lot. And cutting back means cutting back funding to farmers markets. There's been interesting change in the types of businesses that are seeking out farmers markets and access to customers. So we'll take money wherever they want to give it to us.
This is that shift in marketing dollars for sure.
Yeah.
So do you think, I know some of you were active in associations and things before all this started. How many of you actually had face-to-face contact with the people in the groups that you're relying on now? Or have you only gotten to know them online?
Well, I've met almost all of them at the various association conferences over the years. Or at least know who they are. If I haven't met them in person, I at least have talked to them before.
Gotcha.
Same.
Indiana, we have an annual kind of farmers market managers forum. It's a one-day kind of intensive. And so I'd met most people through that, but it's a kind of whirlwind. So this has been a great chance to kind of get to know people a little bit better. And, there'd been a lot of people that I'd kind of seen scurrying by from one session to another, but that was about it. So getting that chance to, I'd said earlier how I got to go visit a couple other markets while we were closed. And that was really great because I never said more than, hi, how's it going? So,
well, and we actually got to meet Casey Lyman in person at the Intense, the Farmers Market Pros Conference in February, where I'm talking to a bunch of people around the country right now that run associations about who's going to have a state conference next year and what are we doing about Farmers Market Pros Intense Conference and things, because again, that crystal ball is a little cloudy and we have no idea if anybody's going to be able to actually be in the same room either this fall or even next spring. So it's odd. But will you, do you think that now that you've developed some relationships, either with people you knew before and you're getting to know better, or like in the Farmers Market Pros community, people are from all over the country. And I think some of us have met each other at various conferences, but a lot of us haven't. I've gotten to know some people. I mean, I have some people in that community right now that I feel like are my buds that I can text at 11 o'clock at night if I'm freaking out about something, even though I've never met them. So if you're developing those same kind of relationships, or if you're really relying on your association more now, do you think you'll continue to be active after things settle down? Well, wait, will things settle down? Do we think? We don't know. Where's that crystal ball? But do you think that in whatever kind of thing that normal morphs into, when things are hopefully somewhat less on fire someday, right?
Yes.
Do you think you'll continue to be active in those kind of groups, or are you typically more of a lone wolf? Or are you in a group even when things are not crazy, or what do you think's coming for you?
No, I think the groups are fantastic with or without COVID. It's there's no telling what hurdles you'll see. That's the great thing about farmers markets. There's something different every year that we, at least us, have had to overcome. And I'm sure everyone else has had to overcome something different every year. This year is COVID. And so having those relationships just moving forward is very helpful.
Yeah, I think for me, it's misery loves company, or it's, this kind of building camaraderie through this mutual kind of trial by fire we're all going through. And so I think I've gotten a lot closer to other people in the community through it. And both people inside the farmers market managing community and the wider kind of local ag world. I've met some people who are farmers who go to other markets that I've never interacted with because of this, and been able to have great conversations and learn a lot more about and get more linked in with what they're doing as well. So it's been a kind of neat experience, and I think it will kind of grow into better and more connections moving forward.
It's trauma bonding.
But hopefully long lasting,
yes, exactly.
long after the trauma.
Yes.
And hopefully at some point there is an after trauma, right?
I would think so. I think we will have a conference again.
You do?
Yes.
Live and in person.
And we'll hug each other and all the things. Yeah. We'll just have to wash our hands.
We'll clean glasses.
That would be nice. Looking forward to days.
It brings back memories of the VAFMIS conference last November when I dressed up like a giant germ.
Right? Oh, you did? Oh.
I did.
Wow, you were
big giant germ, green germ. I was going all around. I was taught a food safety class.
I was going to say, how did you arrive at a germ then before all this?
Yeah, because I run a commissary also. I teach food safety.
Yeah.
So it was. I haven't brought the germ out because I just didn't feel like it was
too soon. It's too soon.
But. Just
maybe
back
later.
Memories.
Yeah. It's good times with those conferences. All right.
It's always the relationships too.
Yeah.
It's anything that you learn. It's what you get from each other there. I think that is the most meaningful for the people that attend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's so much more to just keep talking about as we kind of navigate the rest of the summer, the rest of the year, see how things go. So we'll definitely
next year
and beyond. So we'll all kind of stick with it and stick with our groups. I know we could talk to the three of you for probably 5 more hours about things that we talk about in our groups. But since this is a podcast, got to kind of wrap it up. But I really want to say thank you to you three so much for coming on and talking with us. For our listeners, if you're not part of the Farmers Market Pros community, please jump in there. That's where these three saw that we were asking for podcast guests and popped on. So we're so grateful for that and grateful to continually build community with all of you. So thank you so much, you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon. We'll see you in the group.
Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, thank you all so much. It was great to chat.
Thanks, you guys. All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye, Caitlin. Bye, Lisa.
To hear what's happening in various parts of the country or share what's happening in your area, we have terrific conversations and terrific people sharing resources over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Feel free to come on over, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join that group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks so much for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us how you're enjoying TED Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. This podcast is produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thanks for listening.